Listen, if you've ever been to New Orleans, you know Bourbon Street is the place to be. The energy is electric, the music is loud, and the drinks never stop flowing. So there I was, just another night out with my girlfriends when I met him. He was tall, dark, and handsome, the kind of guy who stands out even in a crowd as wild as this one. His name was Michael, and he had this air of mystery about him that was intoxicating. We hit it off right away, and after a few drinks and some dancing, he suggested we head over to Harrah's casino. I'd never been, and the idea of high-stakes poker sounded thrilling. My girlfriends encouraged me to go, so I did. Harrah's was buzzing with excitement. The clinking of chips, the cheers, and the groans of gamblers, it was all a bit overwhelming but exhilarating. Michael seemed completely at ease. He led me to the poker tables, where he quickly bought in for a high-stakes game. We found a spot to watch, and I settled in, curious to see him in action. The first few hands were uneventful, but then things got interesting. He played with a confidence that was almost unnerving. He knew when to bet big and when to fold, always keeping his cool. One hand in particular stood out. He had a pair of queens, and the flop came down Queen of Hearts, 10 of spades, and 2 of diamonds. He bet big, and a couple of players folded immediately. One guy, though, went all in. Michael didn't even flinch. He called, and when the turn and river cards came down, another 10 and a king, he revealed his full house. The other guy had 2 pair, kings and 10s. Michael raked in a massive pile of chips with a calm smile. As the hours passed, he kept winning. It was almost eerie how lucky he was. Around 1 a.m., he suggested we head up to his room. I hesitated, but there was something so compelling about him. I agreed, but as we walked towards the elevator, one of the waitresses accidentally spilled a drink on me. "I'm so sorry," she exclaimed, grabbing napkins. "You should go clean up in the bathroom." She was insistent, and I couldn't argue. She practically dragged me to the restroom, where she turned to me with a serious expression. "Listen," she said urgently. "He's not a man. You should not go with him to his room." I stared at her, stunned. "What do you mean?" "I don't know what he is, but I've seen him before. Trust me, you don't want to find out." My mind raced. Everything in me screamed that she was telling the truth. We walked out of the restroom together, and there he was, standing right at the door, waiting. His presence was even more unsettling now. "Is everything okay?" Michael asked, his voice smooth. "Yeah, just got a little wet," I replied, trying to keep my cool. "I think I need to call it a night, though. Gonna go to the bar and call my girlfriends." He didn't seem surprised, just nodded. "All right, maybe another time then." As he walked away, I felt a shiver run down my spine. I made my way to the bar and quickly called my girlfriends, telling them where I was and what had happened. They said they'd come meet me right away. While I waited, I scrolled through my phone, looking at the photos we had taken on Bourbon Street. As I flipped through the pictures, something caught my eye. In every photo, Michael's eyes were different. They had a strange, reflective quality, almost like snake eyes. I dropped my phone in shock. The waitress was right. Whatever he wasn't human. My heart raced as I glanced around, half expecting to see him watching me. But the bar was crowded, and he was nowhere to be seen. My girlfriends arrived, and I told them everything. They believed me, thank God, and we decided to stick together for the rest of the night. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had narrowly escaped something terrible. As we left the casino and stepped back onto the chaotic, vibrant streets of New Orleans, I couldn't help but feel a sense of relief. Bourbon Street was wild, unpredictable, and sometimes dangerous. But at least it was a danger I understood.
Do you like the content? Like, share, and subscribe for more of Darkwater's scary stories about lizard people. In fact, we need more content, so email us at iam@iamdarkwaters.com. Also, remember we stream content 24 hours here on YouTube from our vast collection of encounters over the past 10 years. And yes, they are true encounters. Join us and delve into the world of the unknown, only on Dark Waters.
Listen, working as a janitor in an office building in downtown Austin isn't the most glamorous job, but it pays the bills. I'm just a regular guy, doing my thing, cleaning up after all the office workers have gone home. I've got my routine. Start on the top floor and work my way down, empty the trash cans, vacuum the carpets, clean the bathrooms. You get the idea? So it was a Tuesday night, nothing special. I was on the 10th floor, just finishing up the break room when I first saw him. A man in a suit, just standing there in the hallway, staring at me. Now, let me tell you, it's unusual to see anyone in the building after hours, especially in a suit. Most people clear out by 6 p.m. I thought maybe he was one of those overworked execs pulling a late night. I nodded at him, expecting him to say something, but he just kept staring. It was kind of creepy, but hey, maybe he was just having a rough day. I shrugged it off and went about my business, pushing my cleaning cart to the next office. The next night, I was on the 8th floor, scrubbing down the bathrooms when I saw him again. Same suit, same intense stare. This time though, I noticed something weird about his eyes. They seemed off, almost like they were too shiny, too reflective, like the eyes of a lizard or something. I thought I was just tired and my mind was playing tricks on me. I mean, who sees lizard eyes on a guy in a suit? I gave him a friendly, "Hey, working late again?" But he didn't respond, just kept looking at me with those strange eyes. I finished up as quickly as I could and moved to another floor. The whole thing was giving me the heebie-jeebies. By Thursday night, I was seriously dreading running into him again. Sure enough, there he was on the 6th floor, standing in the same spot in the hallway, staring. This time, I couldn't ignore it. I walked right up to him, close enough to really see his eyes, and let me tell you, they were not normal. They had vertical slits, like a reptile's. I took a step back, my heart pounding. "Who are you?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He didn't say anything, just tilted his head slightly, like he was studying me. That's when I noticed his skin. It looked smooth and too perfect, almost like it was synthetic. I don't know what came over me, but I bolted. I ran down the stairs, skipping steps, my cleaning cart abandoned in the hallway. I made it to the lobby, out of breath and freaked out. The night security guard, Bob, looked up from his newspaper. "You all right, man?" he asked, raising an eyebrow. "Did you see a guy in a suit come through here?" I panted. Bob frowned. "Nope, nobody has come through here all night." "Why?" I didn't even know how to explain it, so I just shook my head. "Never mind, must have been my imagination." But it wasn't my imagination. I knew what I saw. I decided then and there I wasn't going back up to those floors alone. I convinced Bob to come with me to grab my cleaning cart. We didn't see the man in the suit again that night, but I could feel his presence, like he was watching us. The next day, I told my boss I couldn't work nights anymore. I didn't give a reason, just said it wasn't working out for me. They switched me to a daytime shift, and I haven't seen the man with the lizard eyes since. But sometimes when I'm locking up my locker or heading to my car, I get this feeling like I'm being watched, and I can't help but glance over my shoulder, half expecting to see those eerie, reflective eyes staring back at me.
We're like under 9 feet of water here. We're trying to get out. We have a baby. There's 5 of us. We're very frightened.
Voices of desperation amid the devastation of Hurricane Katrina.
My house is underwater. I have me, my husband, the 3-year-old, and a newborn. So we're stuck with no water, and one of the babies is running a high fever.
With the water rising around them, listeners called in to the only radio station left on air in New Orleans.
A lot of you on the phones trying to help me out here, to help the people out there. Stay with us. We're your lighthouse, gang, in this moment of darkness.
WWL's headquarters were ravaged by the winds. The broadcasts continued from an emergency studio.
Early in mid-city, you're on WWL.
This whole area is flooded back here, and it happened after the storm.
The system designed to protect New Orleans from flooding had failed.
We sitting on the porch looking at the water rising up. We never had no flood back. The cars is underwater completely. And we don't have no way to get out or nothing. It's just coming up.
Well, I was feeling that this was it. This probably be the last person would hear my voice if we didn't get help, because it was coming, it was rising.
Earlene escaped with her husband by boat. They spent a year in Houston, Texas, before returning to the same house.
Just thank God that my husband got us out of here. He saved him and my neighbor next door. They saved a lot of people.
As New Orleans pleaded for salvation, many people asked why the government hadn't sent help. And that's when the city's mayor, Ray Nagin, phoned into the station unannounced.
Excuse my French, everybody in America, but I am pissed. Now get off your asses and let's do something, and let's fix the biggest goddamn crisis in the history of this country.
There are many hidden things that still remain as it pertains to Hurricane Katrina.
And I think it may be impossible, absolutely impossible for the average individual to completely and totally understand the devastation, frustration, and aggravation that those of us experienced who were left behind during Hurricane Katrina. Now, I'm sure that you've seen things on the news. You saw the helicopters in the air. You saw the people at the Superdome. You've seen things, horrific things. But until you experienced it for yourself, there's no describing it. I remember the feeling I had watching my wife and my 2 sons be lifted into a helicopter, knowing that they would be safe, but there was also a possibility that nobody would come back for me. I remember that moment, standing there looking at that helicopter leaving, saying, at least my family is okay. Also, I remember the stench, the smell of the disgusting, dirty water, the sounds, the constant sounds of movement as debris crashed against houses. It's some of the most things you'll ever hear. Most people in America will never experience a situation such as this. So I'm going to do my best to relay and make you understand exactly what the hell I went through. Imagine being on the roof of a 2-story duplex. And day and night, there's this constant noise as debris rustles, metals scratching on metal scratching on wood, entire vehicles floating down the street. It's hot. And it's hot. I'm talking about outside heat stroke, fall out and die hot. And then the night comes and there's absolutely no relief. Mosquitoes and darkness. Pure pitch black, uncivilized darkness. Something that most human beings in the modern world will never ever encounter. And then there's the loneliness, the anticipation, holding on to hope, the mosquitoes, the constant noise. If you never experienced anything like this, you would believe that it was silent at night. No, it wasn't silent. There was constant noise. The sound of wood scratching against wood, metal clashing against metal, literal cars floating down the street. It was constant noise. And I remember the mosquitoes and then that pitch black darkness and the heat, the oppressive nighttime heat. Yes. Was it terrifying? Absolutely. Did I believe that I would live through it? Frankly, if I was telling you the truth, no, I didn't believe that I would live through this situation. But I do remember sitting on that roof thinking to myself, no matter what I go through, I'm going to have to get back to my family. So I'm going to survive this. I remember encouraging myself, saying, we will survive this. Then hearing splashing in the water, like something was moving. Grabbing my flashlight, heading over to that side of the roof, shining the light into the water and seeing these red eyes looking back at me. New Orleans East, where I lived, is very close to the swamps and the bayous. So it was nothing for there to be alligators in the water. In fact, the entire time I was there, I saw 3 dogs get eaten by alligators in the water. When I tell you that the sights and sounds were absolutely horrific, to this day, it still gives me nightmares. So when I shine the light in the water and see those red eyes, in my mind, it's just an alligator. So I sit back down and try and rest. I remember slapping my skin, killing the mosquitoes. When I hear this sound was different. It was closer. It sounded to me like something touching the gutter on top of the roof. Now pause right here and let me paint a picture for you. Like I told you, 2-story, 4-plex, flat roof, thin gutter that went around the edge. I remember what sounded like something grabbing onto that gutter. And the sound was different than every other sound that I've heard because it was closer. It sounded intentional, like someone or something was doing it. It wasn't random at all. I also remember the fear washing over my body, chills running up and down my spine as I clicked on that flashlight and shined it in that direction, only to realize that what I was looking at was not human. It was a lizard, humanoid-looking creature, and let me explain to you exactly what it looked like. If you've seen an alligator head, then you know the basis for what I'm talking about. Take an alligator head, shrink it down, make it more lizard-like. Make the snout shorter. Same eyes, longer neck. This thing is trying to climb up on top of the roof where I am. And I remember in that moment right then and there that I had a decision to make. If I let this thing get up on this roof, it was going to kill me, possibly eat me alive. And the only thing I could think to do was charge it, get it while I was at a disadvantage. So I charge it, running as fast as I can, and front kick this thing dead smack in the face. It flies backwards, lands into the water, makes a splash, and now I'm standing there shining the flashlight, looking around, trying to figure out where it went. But it's gone. Now stop right here and pause and let me say this to you. There's fear of the known, and then there's fear of the unknown knowns. And what I mean by that is this. I didn't know exactly what this was. I didn't know where it went. But what I did know is if that thing came up on that roof, it was going to kill me. All I had was a flashlight and one of those heavy duty curtain rods. And I used that heavy duty curtain rod to poke a hole in the roof and rip it open and get my family up to the top of the roof. So the only weapon I had with me was that flashlight and this bent up, twisted curtain rod. And for a moment, I start to panic. Imagine a scene. I'm moving from corner to corner to corner of the roof, shining the light into the water, trying to figure out where this thing went. And then it dawns on me. There's nothing that I can do. I mean, literally nothing I can do but wait. So I decided that I'm going to sit down in the center of the roof. And I remember sitting there trying to figure out how exactly I would defend myself. And that's when I came up with the idea that I was going to twist and turn this bent and broken curtain rod and rip it in half until I got to the point to where I had a jagged edge. And if that thing came on that roof again, that would be my weapon. Imagine a scene. I'm just sitting there in pitch black darkness. Mosquitoes bite me and I'm not even reacting to them because I'm listening. I'm listening as much as I can, trying to discern the sounds that I'm hearing. I remember the sound of something hitting one of those metal fences. Ting-ting, 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 ting-ting. I remember the sound of wood scratching along brick. It had gotten to the point, being out there in the dark, you just discerned the sounds. You knew what it was. So I'm listening for anything that was off, anything that was odd. And I didn't hear anything. I sit there, 5 minutes pass, 10 minutes pass, 15 minutes pass, 20 minutes pass. I remember my pulse starting to calm down. And it was like this thing waited until I was comfortable, until I wasn't afraid anymore. And then it decided to attack. I remember sitting there Indian style, mosquitoes biting me not even reacting to it, listening to each and every sound. And like I said, it was almost as if this thing waited until I calmed down, like it wanted me not to expect it to attack. Imagine a scene, me sitting there Indian style, that curtain rod laid out in front of me, scanning, listening. And I believe, to this day, I believe that this thing was so intelligent that it found an area of the roof where the gutter was already torn off. Because frankly, I didn't hear it climbing up this time. I just remember my eyes had adjusted to the darkness and seeing this silhouette moving on the roof. And it happened so fast. I mean, it really did. It happened so fast. I see this black mass coming at me, and it looks like its arms are spread wide. I grab that curtain rod, raise it on a 45-degree angle, lean back, and then there's this impact and this thud. And I roll and tumble backwards, and I feel this liquid on my body. And then I'm kicked in the chest. I remember being hit in the inner thigh, screaming, this screeching, squealing sound. And then, splash. It's gone in the water again. Now stop right here. Now pause right here in the story. Let me say this to you. Realize This is Hurricane Katrina. It is pitch black darkness outside. My heart is now racing. It's damn near 100 degrees. I'm there thinking that I'm about to have a heat stroke at night. And this fear is all over me. I'm talking about a fear unlike anything I've ever felt. I spend the rest of that night on guard, waiting for this thing to come back. And then the sun starts to rise. Most people don't have an appreciation for daylight because they never found themselves in a situation like this. So daylight means nothing to them. Sunrise means nothing to them. They have zero appreciation for the sunrise. Let me explain this to you. If you find yourself submerged in the darkness, isolation, and fear, the sunrise means everything to you. And that's what it meant to me. Just that sunlight breaking meant safety. It meant that I could see that I had an advantage, that I knew for the next few hours that I could survive. But with that sunlight came 100-degree heat. And I'm talking about an oppressive heat, humidity, which made it seem like you could barely breathe. You combine that with the stench and the smell of the water. It was horrific. But even in that situation, I found myself anchored to hope, hoping that some way, somehow, somebody would save me. And as the day progressed and the sun went down, that hope started to fade again when I realized that there was a chance that this thing was coming back. I remember it was right after the sun went down when I heard a boat in the water. The most delightful sound that I've ever heard. A boat. And I'm excited. And then all of that excitement is drained immediately when I start to hear automatic gunfire. But that boat is coming my way. And I need you to understand something. That's my throat. And I need you to understand something about this situation. There was no news. There was no media. There was no word getting around about who was coming to help you. The only thing that I trusted at that point in time was a helicopter. Because I figured if a helicopter came, those people were coming to save me. I had no clue who the hell was in this boat. And so as they come in my direction, I lay flat down on the ground, hiding myself. And I hear one of the men saying, I don't think there's anybody out here. I don't think there's anybody left in this neighborhood. And then I hear that boat vroom, speed away. They're headed in the direction of this apartment complex, which is at the end of the block. The next thing I know, I hear automatic gunfire again. And one of them saying, what the hell is that thing, man? What the hell is that thing? I had a decision to make. I didn't know who these men were. For all I knew, they could have been robbing people's houses and stealing goods. But I had a decision to make. If I wanted to get back to my family, I needed to take this chance. I needed to take this opportunity. It was either get in the boat with them or most likely die right here on the top of this roof, either from heat exhaustion, heat stroke, or whatever the hell that thing was that I encountered the night before. I remember standing up saying, hey, help, help, I'm here. The boat stopping and one of the men screaming, hey man, we were just over here. What are you doing? Flashlights now shining in my face. Come on, let's go. I remember jumping off of that roof into that water. The splash. Immediately, my legs getting cut by the debris that was in the water. And you know how it is when you get a cut underwater. You can feel that your body's bleeding. I felt the blood leaving my body. I felt the sting as that bacteria entered into my body. I remember them pulling me up on this flat boat and then it taking off. One of the men looking at me and saying, how long have you been up there? Me telling him, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. The other one saying, we have your back, brother. We're going to get you to someplace safe. Just sit back and relax. And one of the things I remember the most about that boat ride, one of the most terrifying things I remember about that ride is the actual place where I was laying was on this bag. And inside of that bag, you could feel that these men had more guns than the damn army themselves. You could feel that cold metal on your skin. But I knew I was safe. That's the one thing I knew, at least safe from that thing, not necessarily from these men. I remember one of them handed me a bottle of water, me taking a drink, and then I passed out. When I woke up, I was in this makeshift hospital. I mean, a hospital inside a bunch of tents. They were green, military-looking tents. The nurse tells me that I'm going to be fine. I have IVs in my arm, and then in walks this gentleman. And I'll say gentleman because he was extremely polite and extremely nice. And he walks up to me and he says, "Hey, sir, how are you doing? Everything is going to be fine." And I'm looking at him and he's looking at me. And I realize that this man is definitely not a civilian. He has that hardcore military look, even though he's not dressed as a military man, but he's too clean dressed. I mean, everything is pressed perfectly. He sits down and he says, "Sir, I have a question for you. What exactly did you see when you were out there on that roof?" Stop, pause right here. When you find yourself in a situation where you at a severe disadvantage like this, the best thing to do is just to tell the truth. So I say, "Sir, I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about. I saw a lot of darkness, a lot of death, but I'm not sure exactly what you mean." He says, "No, son, it's okay. Tell me the truth. You encountered something on that roof. What was it that you encountered?" And so I start the process of explaining to him my story, telling him exactly what I saw, exactly what I went through. And he looks at me and he says, "That explains this weird blood we found all over your clothes. And it also verifies what my men told me they encountered while they were out there." Then he says, "Thank you," stands up and walks out and starts to talk to the nurse. A few minutes later, she comes over and says, "I'm going to give you a dose of vitamins to help strengthen your body and boost your immune system." Next thing I know, I'm out cold, gone, sleep, wake up in a hospital in Houston. Now remember, this is Katrina. People's families are scattered everywhere. I wake up in that hospital and in walks another man. And he says, "Listen, we've located your family and we're going to connect you guys together. They're in Oklahoma. We're going to get you up to Oklahoma where your family is." And then he puts this paperwork in front of my face and tells me I need to sign this paperwork about what I saw in New Orleans. Now, he didn't tell me I had to, but he strongly suggested that if I wanted to see my family and I wanted his help, that I needed to sign that paperwork. So I signed it. And next thing you know, I'm out of there in Oklahoma with my family.